My wife smirked to her friends at their monthly wine and gossip session, completely unaware that I was in my home office with the door half open. I heard her voice, loud and clear, echoing into the living room below. "Oh, please. That would never work with mine. I just have to wait him out. He always bends eventually. Always has." More laughter followed from her friends, and then one of them chimed in. "You've got him trained well." Rachel laughed again and replied, "It's not even training at this point. It's just who he is. He'll push back for maybe a day, then cave. Every single time. I don't even stress about it anymore." I sat there at my desk, fingers frozen over my keyboard, feeling a cold sensation settle in my chest. She said it so casually, so matter-of-factly, like it was just an observable truth about me, the way you'd mention someone's height or hair color. I didn't go downstairs, I didn't interrupt, and I didn't argue. I just sat there and thought about every time I'd bent in the past 11 years of our marriage. I thought about the vacation I didn't want to take but agreed to because she insisted. I thought about the expensive kitchen renovation I thought was unnecessary but funded anyway. I thought about the career opportunity one turned down because it would have meant relocating and she didn't want to move. Every single time I'd pushed back initially, made my case, and then eventually bent. And she'd been counting on it, banking on it, mocking me for it to her friends. I closed my laptop, went to the bedroom, and lay down on the bed, staring at the ceiling for about 2 hours, just thinking. She came uppercase around 10 p.m. after her friends left and found me in bed. "You okay? You disappeared," she said. I told her I was just tired. Then she offered, "Want me to make you some tea? I was gonna prep your breakfast stuff for tomorrow morning." And there it was, the routine. Every single night for 11 years, she'd set up my breakfast. The coffee maker prepped and ready to auto-start at 6 a.m. My vitamins and medications laid out next to my water glass. Oatmeal measured into a bowl with raisins and cinnamon, just needing hot water added. It was sweet when we first got married. Caring. She'd said she wanted to take care of me, make my mornings easier since I had an early commute. But now I heard it differently. Now it sounded like maintenance. Like you'd maintain a machine you needed to keep running to sustain your lifestyle. "Don't worry about it tonight. I'm good," I told her. She asked if I was sure, mentioning it only takes 5 minutes, but I insisted. She shrugged and got ready for bed. We fell asleep without much conversation. I woke up around 3 a.m., unable to sleep, hearing her voice on repeat in my head. "He always bends eventually." I got up quietly, went downstairs to the kitchen, and unplugged the coffee maker. I put away the vitamins and medications she'd already set out, and poured the pre-measured oatmeal back into the container. Then I wrote a note, simple and clear, leaving it where my breakfast setup normally would be. "I heard what you said to your friends about how I always bend. You're right. I did. Past tense. That's done now. Make your own breakfast. I'll make mine when I'm ready. We'll talk tonight." I went back to bed and slept better than I had in weeks. My alarm went off at 5:30 a.m. like always. I got up, showered, got dressed, and headed downstairs around 6:15 a.m. Rachel was standing in the kitchen holding my note. The coffee maker was still unplugged, and the counter was completely empty. She looked up at me, her face pale. "What is this?" "Exactly what it says," I replied, my voice flat, completely devoid of the usual soft, accommodating tone she was used to. "You're mad because of something you overheard?" she asked, her defensive walls going up instantly. "I was just joking with my friends. It's not that deep." "I'm not mad, Rachel. I'm awake," I said, looking her straight in the eyes. "There's a difference, and it is exactly that deep. You told them you don't worry about what I want because I'll cave anyway. You see me as someone predictable, someone you've trained. Those were your words, not mine." "I didn't mean it like that," she stammered, crossing her arms. "I was just venting. All women do it." "Then name one major decision in the last 2 years where you actually compromised," I challenged, stepping closer. "Name one time where you gave up something you wanted because I didn't want it, without wearing me down until I just couldn't fight anymore." She opened her mouth to argue, closed it, and couldn't come up with a single thing. The silence in the kitchen was deafening. "That's what I thought," I said. "So here's what's changing. I'm done bending. If you want something from me, you're going to have to actually negotiate. You're going to have to actually compromise and actually treat me like my preferences matter. As for breakfast, it stops. I'll handle my own from now on, and you handle yours." "You're being ridiculous," she hissed, her voice shaking. "You're ruining our marriage over one stupid comment." "I'm trying to save our marriage by addressing a pattern of disrespect that I've ignored for too long," I said, grabbing my keys and briefcase. "I'm going to work. We'll talk more tonight." "We're talking now," she yelled as I walked toward the door. "No," I said, turning back for a split second. "You're defending yourself. That's not the same as talking. Tonight, after we've both had time to think." The drive to work felt strange, liberating but heavy. For the first time in 11 years, I hadn't softened the blow, I hadn't backpedaled, and I hadn't optimized my behavior just to keep her happy. My phone buzzed relentlessly all through the morning with texts from her, calling me immature and telling me I was overreacting. I didn't reply to a single one. At lunch, I sent one text back. "I am talking about this like an adult. I heard something that made me realize how you truly see me, and I'm responding to that reality. We'll discuss it tonight. Until then, please stop texting me at work." Around 3 p.m., her best friend called me, the one who had laughed the loudest during their wine session. I answered, keeping my guard up. "Hey, Rachel is really upset," her friend said, trying to sound reasonable. "She says you're mad about something she said, and now you're freezing her out. I think you're reading too much into a joke." "It wasn't a joke," I said coldly. "It was her actual opinion of me, that I'm predictable, manageable, and guaranteed to bend. That's not a joke, that's contempt. And I'm done being the guy who always gives in. If that upsets her, maybe she should ask herself why my absolute compliance was so critical to her happiness." I hung up and blocked her friend's number. When I got home around 6:30 p.m., Rachel was in the kitchen making dinner. It wasn't the usual elaborate meal she'd normally prepare. It was just plain pasta and Jared sauce. Bare minimum effort. "Dinner's almost ready," she said quietly as I walked in. "Thanks," I nodded. "We need to talk." "Agreed," she said, setting the plates down. We sat across from each other at the dining table, eating in a tense, heavy silence. After a few minutes, she finally put down her fork, looked at me and said, "I'm sorry. I'm sorry for what I said, and for making it sound like I don't respect you." "Do you respect me, Rachel?" I asked point blank. "Of course I do." She insisted. "Then why did you tell them I always bend? Why did you tell them you don't worry about my boundaries because I'm predictable?" "Because you're reasonable," she cried out, trying to flip the meaning. "Because you listen to me, and we always find a way to work things out." I meant it as a good thing. "We don't work things out. I give in." I corrected her, my voice steel. "You want something, I push back, you persist, and I eventually agree to keep the peace. The pattern is clear. So what do you want to do now? Do you want a marriage where we are actually equals? Or do you just want the old version of me who was manageable?" "I want my husband back," she whispered, tears finally welling up in her eyes. "Your husband is right here," I said, looking at her steadily. "You just don't recognize him because he's finally standing straight. You're ruining our marriage over one stupid comment," Rachel cried, her shoulders shaking. "I'm trying to save our marriage by addressing a pattern I've ignored for too long," I said. "If you can't see the difference, that's part of the problem." Over the next few days, we lived in a weird limbo. We were both at home, sleeping in the same bed, but we were completely distant. We moved around each other in the kitchen like choreographed dancers, never quite touching, always polite but cold. I kept making my own breakfast, and she kept making hers. By Thursday evening, she couldn't take the silence anymore. "How long are you going to stay mad?" she asked, confronting me in the living room. "I'm not mad. I'm resolved. There's a difference." "Resolved to what?" "To not being taken for granted," I said, leaning against the counter. To having my needs actually matter. To being in an equal partnership instead of being the one who always accommodates. "You're being dramatic," she snapped. "Am I? Okay, let's test it," I said, my voice dropping into a calm, challenging tone. "I want to take a trip next month. Just me. A solo hiking trip for 4 days. Will you support that?" She blinked, completely blindsided. "What? Why do you need a solo trip? We could go together." "I don't want to go together. I want to go alone," I replied. "I need time away. Time that's just mine without having to accommodate anyone else's preferences. We're discussing it now. I'm telling you what I want. Will you support it?" I need to think about it," she stammered, looking away. "That's what I thought," I said, letting out a cold laugh. "See, if you had asked me for a solo trip, I would have said yes immediately. I would have asked where you wanted to go, helped you pack, and made sure you had everything you needed. But when I ask, you need to think about it. That's the pattern, Rachel. It's different because you're used to your wants being the priority, and when mine are, it feels wrong to you." She had no answer. She spent the next couple of days trying to find allies, even calling her mother to complain. On Sunday evening, she tried one last card. "I talked to my mother," she said, sitting across from me. "She thinks you're going through a midlife crisis. She said all men get weird about respect and independence at some point, and that I should just wait it out until you come around." I couldn't help but laugh out loud. There it is. Wait it out. Because I always bend eventually, right? That's her advice? Just wait for me to go back to being predictable and manageable? Rachel tried to backpedal, but the damage was done. "Even your mother knows the pattern," I told her. "Even she knows I could always be counted on to cave." "Well, you can tell her the wait is over." The breakfast routine never came back. We make our own breakfast now, sometimes together in the kitchen, sometimes not. The solo hiking trip happened, too. For days in the mountains, completely alone with my thoughts. Rachel didn't exactly cheer me on, but she didn't try to stop me either. When I came back, she asked how it was, and I told her it was good. We left it at that. Things are different now. Not perfect, but different. She asks me what I want much more often, and she actually listens like she's genuinely curious, not like she's just gathering data to build a counter-argument later. I've said a firm no to 3 things in the past month. A dinner party she wanted to host, a massive furniture purchase, and a weekend trip to her parents' house. Each time, she pushed back a little, realized I wasn't going to budge, and actually accepted it. No passive-aggressive lingering, no waiting for me to change my mind. We had a real conversation last week. For the first time, she admitted she'd gotten comfortable with me always flexing. She confessed that she had stopped thinking about what I wanted because I rarely pushed hard enough to make her think about it. My predictability had made her lazy, and I admitted my part in it, too. I had enabled it by saying yes when I meant no for far too long. She asked me if our marriage was going to make it. I looked at her and was completely honest. I told her I didn't know yet. We are in a brand new phase, and I need to see if she can sustain this change. I need to know if she can treat me like an equal partner instead of someone to manage. The accommodating, predictable husband who always bends eventually is officially gone. I killed him the moment I stopped treating my own boundaries as optional. What's left is a man she's having to relearn how to treat with respect. I don't know if we'll make it in the long run, but I know this. I'd rather face the hard truth of a changing marriage than go back to being the guy who shrinks himself just to keep the peace. Now that you've heard the whole story, I have to ask you guys a question. Do you think I was too harsh by refusing to let her reset the pattern? Or did I do what every man should do when he realizes his kindness is being treated as weakness? How would you have handled hearing your wife tell her friends you'll always bend? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below.